On The Young and the Restless, tomorrow, Friday, August 29th, 2025, Amanda Sinclair returns. We've got the photo spoilers of what's coming up. On The Young and the Restless, Cain had a plan that all went very, very sideways in France weeks ago. 3 people died, Lily was pushed away even further, and everyone in Genoa City knew that Cain had a plan to take over. Weeks later, it's time for him to do some damage control. When Charlie and Maddie stopped talking to Cain, it was a wake-up call. He decided to put all of his energy into rebuilding a relationship with his kids and told Phyllis and Billy that he was calling off all of his plans to take over Genoa City. Billy warned Cain that it wouldn't be that simple. Phyllis would feel like she was losing everything. She'd hoped that working with Cain was going to change her world, and if he ends things, she'll definitely feel desperate again. Just like when Billy let her go from both Chancellor and Abbott Communications. Let's see what's coming up on tomorrow's episode. While Billy updates Jack about his conversation with Cain, Phyllis does exactly as predicted and wants answers from Cain. Can Phyllis convince Cain to change his mind? Amanda Sinclair comes back on Friday. Phyllis wanted to team up with her before. Is that idea still viable? Phyllis can be very convincing and effective with the right audience. Meanwhile, Nikki makes a big change at Chancellor, but is it something that will entice Cain to put his plan back in action? Or is it something that Billy can see as a weak link to start his own takeover plan? We know she's promoting Clare, but what else is in the works? Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, Pulse Canvas. It's me, Julie here. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Keep watching. So let's dive into today's video. The Young and the Restless preview for the week of September 2nd reveals Kyle Abbott will pop the question to Claire Newman. Also coming up, Audra Charles will tell Nate Hastings the truth, plus Nikki Newman will have a surprise for Victor Newman. Y&R spoilers tease Nikki will have a bunch of white flowers set up in the living room when Victor arrives home. He'll ask his wife what's going on. Well, you're always the one surprising me and lavishing me with gifts, Nikki tells Victor in the Y&R weekly preview. So, she'll say it's his turn to be surprised. Let me show you how much I love and adore you. But what does she have planned for Victor? Meanwhile, Nate will run into Audra at Crimson Lights, and even though they've broken up, he'll still press her for the truth about what happened with Kyle. I did it. I agreed to Victor's quid pro quo, Audra will tell him. She'll get teary-eyed as she admits to Nate that she went after Kyle in France to get what she wanted. However, will Audra's confession change anything between her and Nate, or is it too late? Finally, Kyle came clean with Clare about what happened between he and Audra in Nice, and she didn't take it well. So, on Friday's Y&R, he'll buy an engagement ring to make it up to her. Clare will agree to have dinner with him at the Abbott estate, and Kyle will pull out the ring and propose. But will Clare say yes, or is she going to turn him down? Hey Y&R fans! Are you enjoying the new CBS Sudser Beyond the Gates? Then make sure you join our free Facebook group. Keep reading The Soap Scoop for Young and The Restless spoilers and news, and make sure to also join our Y&R Facebook group or leave us a reply in our comments section. But if you miss an episode, don't fret. You can watch The Young and the Restless online at cbs.com. There have been a few recent on-screen mentions of Abby, played by Melissa Ordway, on The Young and the Restless. She's been off-camera, taking care of Dominic and mourning Chance. However, storylines are calling out for the character to be seen on screen. Where in the world is Abby Winters? Y&R threw viewers for a twist over 20 years ago when Ashley Abbott, fearing she might not survive breast cancer, put herself on video and revealed that Abby's father was Victor Newman. Later, Victor learned he was Abby's dad, and he's been a doting father ever since. Abby is a perfect Y&R character in that she has both Newman and Abbott blood coursing through her veins. She's been torn between both clans at times, wondering where her ultimate loyalties should lie. In 2024, Ordway revealed on social media after Devin and Abby's wedding that she'd been switched to recurring status, but added that she'd continue to play Abby and be a part of the show. We saw that when Abby traveled to France as part of the Aristotle Dumas reveal storyline. Curiously, Abby disappeared during the storyline. She's been mentioned here and there on screen, but we haven't seen her. Did she get lost in Dumas's maze of shrubbery? Abby is used on an as-needed basis, like most recurring characters are. However, Chance's death should have resulted in some screen time for Abby. At one point, the two were deeply in love and had gotten married. What if Abby learned in Chance's death that her feelings for him were still quite strong? That would have created some drama in her marriage to Devon. That could have paved the way for an Abby-Devon-Amanda triangle. It's a shame that Chance's funeral took place in California and off-screen. We would have loved to have seen not only Jill show up for the memorial, but also Nina, Philip, Guy, and Abby. Hopefully, we'll see Ordway and Abby back on our screens soon. She's both a fan favorite and a Daytime Emmy nominee. Genoa City just isn't the same without the actress and her alter ego. The Young and the Restless preview video for the week of September 15 reveals that Audra Charles will finally confess to Nate Hastings, while Victor Newman gets a big surprise. Y&R's weekly promo kicks off with Kyle Abbott presenting the engagement ring he selected for Clare Newman, who looks totally caught off guard. Kyle's dinner with Clare will take a stunning turn when he asks her to marry him and uses this as a way to prove his commitment. Based on Clare's expression, she won't react well and might accuse Kyle of trying to manipulate her. Clare may think Kyle's not understanding that they have real issues to work through here. Rushing into an engagement isn't going to fix those issues, so Clare may reject the proposal. Of course, there's the potential for Kyle to turn things around if he can convince Clare. This is truly about their love. Kyle will certainly work to sell this marriage idea and convince Clare she's his future, so we'll see if he can salvage his plan. Over with Nate, he'll once again push Audra for the real story. Nate will insist the truth is all he's asking for, so Audra will finally admit everything she's been denying. I did it. I agreed to Victor's quid pro quo. I went after Kyle so I could get what I want. An emotional Audra says in the weekly preview video. Audra will come clean at last, so we'll see how Nate reacts to her admission of guilt. Part of Nate will be relieved over Audra's honesty, but another part of him will be frustrated since it took her so long to tell the truth. Audra also tried to make Nate doubt his gut feeling, so forgiving her won't be an easy task. Nevertheless, Audra may plead for another chance and wonder if maybe they could still have a future together. Next, Nikki Newman will turn the tables on Victor in the best possible way. Since Victor is always surprising Nikki and lavishing her with gifts, she'll decide to surprise and spoil Victor instead. Nikki will want to remind Victor of how much she adores him, so he'll be delighted over his wife's news. The Young and the Restless spoilers reveal that many viewers are wondering if major exits will follow the flood of new hires at the CBS soap. On social media, Y&R fans are growing fearful about cast cuts and departures now that multiple soap stars are being added to the show. The big name grabs started with Billy Flynn, who made the move from Days of Our Lives to Y&R when he debuted as a Cain Ashby recast. Now Cain has become a key player on Canvas, with plenty of airtime and stories centered around him. Of course, there have also been some exits in recent months, like Summer Newman, Cole Howard, Damian Cain, and Chance Chancellor. Whenever a new actor joins the show, there are often some departures as well. That's why some fans are worried now that two other high-profile cast additions have been announced. Days and General Hospital alum Tamara Braun will be making her first appearance as Sienna Bacall this autumn, so that's something to look forward to. GH and One Life to Live alum Roger Howarth is also set to begin filming soon, so he'll be on screen for an important story arc later this year. That's also something to get excited about, but there could be a downside to these huge casting announcements. Now that the show's throwing more money around and hiring some recognizable soap actors, could it pave the way for some current characters to exit? It's easy to imagine Y&R balancing out the budget by letting some actors go, or at least dropping some cast members to recurring. There's no confirmation on who might get the boot or be forced to give up contract status, but it's something to consider on the heels of Braun and Howarth joining the show. There might even be some other cast additions brewing, so it's a good idea to be prepared in case an exit flood is next. The Young and the Restless spoilers reveal that we have to ask, is Roger Howarth playing a Tucker McCall recast and taking over for Trevor St. John? There's a casting mystery underway, so this certainly seems like a great time to speculate. Deadline recently confirmed Howarth as a Y&R cast addition, but the show's staying tight-lipped about who he's playing and what he'll be up to when he hits town. However, Roger Howarth is a well-known name with plenty of soap experience and a Daytime Emmy victory backing up his talent. Since Howarth is a big deal in the world of daytime dramas, he may be playing more than just a random new character. The fact that the show's being so mysterious also seems like a clue. When the news broke about Billy Flynn joining Y&R, his character's identity was kept quiet. Since Flynn turned out to be playing a Cain recast, there was obviously a reason for all the secrecy. Perhaps there's a reason for the secrecy when it comes to who Howarth is portraying, too. Even before this Roger Howarth cast announcement, some fans had pitched him as a potential Tucker recast on social media. Those fans might be getting their wish if it's eventually revealed that Howarth is the new Tucker McCall. Of course, it's possible Howarth will be playing someone else instead, but there are still some stories left to tell when it comes to Tucker. Y&R viewers will recall how abrupt it felt when Tucker exited back in June 2024. Plus, Trevor St. John seemingly hinted that Tucker might return in some form, even if he wasn't the one playing the role. As you well know, Tuckers come and Tuckers go, and so the cycle continues. This Tucker is in his go phase, St. John said on X at the time of his departure. Could Tucker be entering his comeback phase now with a new face? St. John took over the role that Stephen Nichols previously played, so it might be Howarth's turn to take over for St. John next. It's worth mentioning that St. John replaced Howarth in the role of Todd Manning on One Life to Live, before the character was revealed as a twin brother. Could Howarth end up stepping into St. John's shoes as Y&R's Tucker this time around? Whatever the case, it'll be interesting to see what the future holds for Howarth in Genoa City. The Young and the Restless recap for Thursday, August 28th, 25, had Victor and Jack sparring, while Nikki mused over an opportunity for Clare. Also, Kyle came up with an idea to prove to Clare he loved her. At the Abbott mansion, Clare revealed to Kyle that she told Nate the truth about Victor, Audra, and Vibrante. She confirmed that Audra was present when it happened. Clare noted that Audra stuck to her lies, despite Victor changing his mind about them. She questioned Kyle about his time in France with Audra. Did anything happen that he hadn't told her yet? Kyle flashbacked to talking to Diane and Jack, his parents, about not telling Clare about kissing Audra. Diane reminded Kyle that this kind of white lie could come back and bite him. Kyle didn't want to tell Clare about kissing Audra in France because she'd just lost Cole. Jack urged his son to be transparent. Back to the present, Kyle admitted there was something. He said he allowed for a kiss as he was setting his trap for Audra. Clare started grilling Kyle about his kisses with Audra. Kyle said he had to go with it for a bit to prove that Audra was trying to seduce him. "You lied to me!" Clare shouted. She noted that Audra said Kyle was lying and that he was right. Clare said she didn't like that she was finding out about this just now. She wanted to know why Kyle didn't fess up earlier. Kyle said he didn't tell Clare about kissing Audra, and he felt ashamed, which is why he didn't tell her. Clare said hiding all this made it harder. Kyle said Clare had just lost her father, and his kissing Audra meant nothing. Clare yelled that Audra had been more honest with her, and Kyle hadn't been. Clare said Kyle's secrecy has given her reason not to trust him. Clare said she didn't know how to handle this mess. "Clare, I love you," Kyle said. He noted that his love has never wavered. He wanted to eliminate Audra's threat. Clare said she couldn't tell him that he hadn't made things worse. She decided to leave. "I can't, Kyle," Clare said. "I can't make you feel better right now. I have to go." Nikki and Victoria took a break from back-to-school shopping for Johnny and Katie by sitting down at Crimson Lights. Nikki noted that losing Cole was still affecting her daughter. Victoria was hesitant to believe that Victor had given up his dislike of Kyle. Vicky lamented that Kyle might never be good enough for Victor. Nikki noticed that Vicky's screensaver was a photo of her and Clare. Vicky showed her mother the key that Cole had brought back from a bridge in Serbia. Vicky explained how people in love leave locks on the bridge. "He was an incredible person," Nikki raved about her late son-in-law. She added that Cole won over Victor, and that Kyle may do the same. Vicky shared that she and Clare believed Cole pulled a string from heaven to get Victor to change his mind. Nikki noted it was a miracle that Cole, Victoria, and Clare were reunited. Vicky said she focuses on work. Nikki asked about Clare. Vicky said Clare is also focusing on work, but that she's worried about her daughter. Vicky said Clare throwing herself into work wasn't the answer to dealing with her dad's death. Nikki urged Vicky to take her advice and grieve Cole. Vicky asked Nikki if she had an idea how to help Clare. Nikki revealed that she had a promotion she wanted to give Clare. She wanted Clare to take over the junior position of a certain division. Nikki said she wanted to talk about the specifics of the move with Clare. Vicky was thrilled and said Clare should be there soon. Jack approached Victor, who was sitting at a table at Society. He quipped that Victor should have a food taster, given the number of people who don't like him. Victor noted it would take more than arsenic to do him in. Jack recalled Victor trying to break Clare's heart by going after Kyle. Victor said his issue is with Jack, as always. Jack recounted to Victor that he knew all about his plan to use Audra to run Kyle out of town, using the contract Kyle signed to give Victor $5 million and leave Genoa City if he hurt Clare. Victor threw Kyle a compliment, but trashed Jack along the way. The mogul didn't budge an inch. Jack said if Victor had any guts, he'd have qualms about what he did. Victor said that's why Jack's a failure, and Victor is not. Jack threatened Victor. The mogul claimed he's going to leave Kyle alone. Jack said he didn't trust Victor. He said that's the pot calling the kettle back. Victor added that Clare believed him, and he didn't care what Jack thought. Jack suggested that if Victor truly had changed his mind about Kyle, then he'd tear up the contract Victor forced Kyle to sign. Victor said he wouldn't tear up the contract. Jack pointed out that Victor hurts his family while the Abbotts support one another. Victor accused Jack of trying to kill Nikki. He stood up and started screaming at Jack. Then, he walked out of Society as Diane was walking in. Outside of Society, Victor texted Cain, asking him if he was ready to move with him against Jabot. Diane asked Jack to tell her what happened with Victor. Jack shared that he told Victor he knew about his schemes, but that Victor denied and deflected like always. Jack's amazed at how comfortable Victor was at manipulating people. Diane guessed correctly that Victor passed on tearing up Kyle's contract. Diane wanted to get Victor to stop his attacks. Jack said he couldn't get past what Victor tried to do to his and Diane's son. Maybe Victor needs a dose of his own medicine? Jack suggested. Diane agreed that Victor deserved payback, but many have tried and not succeeded. Jack pointed out that he had never gone after any of Victor's kids. Diane said they need to worry about Cain. Jack said that Cain was all bark and no bite. Jack pointed out that Victor was the problem, and he was furious that Kyle almost had to leave town. Diane noted that Kyle brought that deal to Victor. She said that Kyle beat Victor, and he gets to be with Clare. Diane urged Jack to take the win. Just then, Kyle entered and apologized for crashing their lunch. Jack wanted to know what Victor had done this time. Kyle confessed that he was finally honest with Clare and shared that he had kissed Audra in Nice. Kyle added that the whole thing blew up in his face. He didn't know how to be honest with her. Jack urged his son to give Clare some time. He said he could apologize to her later. Kyle said it would take more than that, and he was prepared to deliver. Diane said that it sounded like Kyle and Clare had a fight, but she did note that Kyle did kiss Audra. She suggested that Clare just needed time. Kyle said he needed to come up with something to prove to Clare he was committed to her. Kyle said he was going to ask Clare to marry him. Clare joined Nikki and Victoria at Crimson Lights. She filled them in on Kyle's confession that he kissed Audra. "When someone lies to me, it's really triggering," Clare shared. Nikki pointed out that Kyle loves Clare. She wasn't sure how to fix this. Nikki said relationships can be messy. She suggested that Clare give herself some time. Nikki left after she told Clare she'd see her soon. Nikki promised Clare she'd be fine very soon. Clare sat down with Victoria and asked her mother what it was that she should do. Vicky said to do nothing for now. "I trusted him," Clare said, wondering if it had been a mistake. Clare shared with Vicky that she wasn't sure she could get past Kyle's lies. She conceded that Kyle was not Jordan. Clare realized she just needed to calm down before making any decisions. She lamented that Kyle wasn't someone she could depend upon. Nikki arrived back at the ranch and told Victor she'd done some retail therapy. He wondered if any of the items in her bags were for him. The conversation turned to Kyle and Clare. Nikki asked if Victor had given Kyle a mere test, or had he truly believed that Kyle would break Clare's heart. Nikki pointed out that Kyle had been wed to Summer, but Victor said that was years ago. Victor conceded that Kyle turned down Audra, and he had also stood up to Victor. He appreciated that. Nikki suggested that Victor didn't like Kyle because of Jack, and not because of Kyle. Victor said he would always despise Jack. He stated that the war between him and Jack Abbott would never come to an end as long as he was in his orbit. Genoa City, WI. The storied rivalry between Jack Abbott and Victor Newman has long been the defining conflict of Genoa City, a decades-long chess match of corporate takeovers and personal betrayals. But the latest chapter has escalated their feud into uncharted and dangerous territory, where the prize is no longer a company, but the very soul of the Abbott family. With his son, Kyle Abbott, ensnared in a manipulative trap, a transformed Jack Abbott is promising a war with no rules and no surrender. The catalyst for this renewed conflict is a draconian contract Victor has forced upon Kyle, disguised as a prenuptial agreement to protect his granddaughter, Clare Newman. The terms are brutal. If Kyle betrays Clare, he faces financial ruin, professional exile, and banishment from the city. However, this document is less about protection and more about control. Victor orchestrated the entire scenario, using the ambitious Audra Charles to entrap Kyle in a compromising situation abroad, thereby creating the justification for the contract himself. For Jack, this manipulation is a declaration of war against his family. The public humiliation he suffered at Victor's hands has extinguished his trademark pragmatism, replacing it with an incandescent rage. Jack's wife, Diane Jenkins Abbott, has pleaded with him to let it go, fearing the all-consuming vendetta that has nearly destroyed him in the past. But her pleas fall on deaf ears. Jack sees this not as a business dispute, but as a primal fight to save his son from being a pawn in Victor's cruel game. He views the contract as an assault on the Abbott legacy, stripping Kyle of his agency and painting him as guilty before he has a chance to prove himself. Complicating matters further is Kyle's own deception. He has confessed to Clare that his involvement with Audra amounted to nothing more than a single kiss, a half-truth that barely conceals a far more compromising reality. Clare, sharp and unwilling to be played for a fool, already suspects there is more to the story. Her quiet investigation threatens to unravel Kyle's lie, which would not only destroy his relationship, but also hand Victor the ultimate victory. Kyle is trapped. Telling the truth means ruin, but continuing the lie leaves him perpetually under Victor's thumb. This modern conflict is an echo of a feud cemented in blood and legacy. Their rivalry has seen Victor marry Jack's sister Ashley, and Jack retaliate by marrying Victor's great love, Nikki. Kyle's very existence is a product of this war, conceived after Diane Jenkins famously tried to steal Victor's sperm, only to end up with Jack's by a twist of fate. Victor revels in the chaos, believing he holds all the cards. But he may have underestimated the depth of a father's fury. Jack Abbott is no longer calculating. He is unhinged. This isn't about winning, it's about freeing his son, no matter the cost. As history has shown, when these two titans clash without restraint, Genoa City becomes the battlefield, and this time, the fire in Jack's eyes suggests he's willing to burn everything down to finally break Victor's stranglehold. Young and the Restless sees Clare Grace Newman heartbroken this week when Kyle Abbott finally spills the secret he's been keeping. But Clare's anguish over what he did leads Kyle to a strange conclusion. He thinks proposing marriage is what he needs to do now. We're going to talk about Clare's reaction when Kyle proposes. He just told his parents it's the best thing to do, but a Clare and Kyle wedding could be absolutely disastrous. This week, if you've not seen it yet, Clare again asked Kyle, "Please tell me if there's anything at all you've not revealed about that time in France with Audra Charles." We know Clare is quite happy that Nate Hastings dumped Audra, but she's still suspicious of her own boyfriend. To his credit, Kyle rolls the dice. He takes a risk and decides to be honest, but like 88% honest, not 100%. He's going to tell Clare, yes, okay, he kissed Audra while trying to expose her scheme. Even worse, Kyle reveals the kiss happened in his sleeping car on the train. They were alone there, but what he doesn't tell Clare is that he was only dressed in a towel, and he climbed on top of Audra in the bed. They were playing a serious game of tonsil hockey before it stopped. Kyle makes it sound way more innocent than it was, but it was at least somewhat the truth. Clare tells Kyle that Audra was actually more honest with her than he was because Audra did tell Clare they kissed in France, and he was denying it. The core issue is Jordan Howard, Clare's crazy great-aunt, lied to Clare her entire life and gaslit and misled her. So, honesty is super important to Clare, and now she's completely beside herself. It's not so much that Kyle kissed Audra, it was the lying. Kyle's excuse was that Clare had just lost her dad, Cole Howard. So Kyle didn't know how to tell the truth about the kiss without making Clare's grief worse. Plus, Kyle was afraid of hurting and disappointing her. When Kyle finally comes clean and begs Clare to tell him things are okay, she's not okay, and she walks out on Kyle. Later, Clare tells her mom, Victoria Newman, and her grandma, Nikki Newman, about Kyle kissing Audra in France. They think Kyle made a huge mistake. Ouf, but they also think he truly loves Clare. Victoria says it's totally up to Clare to decide if she should forgive Kyle. It's not up to them. Her mom and grandma also know that Kyle was the subject of a wicked plot cooked up by Victor Newman and Audra. He was being targeted and put in very bad positions. Bottom line, Clare needs time. She's not going to forgive him at the moment. Luckily for Kyle, Clare has not written him off completely. So in time, I do think Clare could forgive him. But I don't know if he can be patient because, meanwhile, Kyle is telling his parents, Jack Abbott and Diane Jenkins, that he came clean. He told Clare the truth, but he might have blown up their relationship. It sounds like Kyle does not want to give Clare time to think about it for too long. Kyle wants to make a grand gesture to win her back and prove his love. He tells his parents the only way to prove himself to Clare is to ask her to marry him. Kyle wants to show Clare just how committed he is to her. It could be late this week, probably into next week, that we'll get Kyle proposing to Clare. I'm sure she's not going to see it coming. As hurt as Clare is, if Kyle's proposal is very heartfelt, and we do know that little Harrison Locke is back soon, Kyle might involve the kid in the proposal on Young and the Restless, and that might convince Clare that his love is indeed real. Of course, Victor will lose his mind if Kyle proposes and Clare says yes. As with any soap opera wedding, there's always the chance that a wedding would go wildly off the rails. I think that's especially true in the case of Clare and Kyle. I suspect Clare and Kyle Big Day would end in chaos potentially. Here's what we could see that would blow up this potential wedding. Obviously, Victor will not be happy about any new Newman and Abbott wedding, even though he gave Clare and Kyle his blessing. First of all, he was lying. Second of all, that does not apply to any engagement. Victor was still hoping that Kyle would lose Clare and that it would fall apart before it got more serious. Jack was just pressuring Victor this week to tear up that contract, but he said no. That's a red flag. If you remember, Kyle signed a document saying he would leave town and pay Victor $5 million if he broke Clare's heart. So Victor Newman could whip that contract out at the speak now or forever hold your peace part of the wedding and blather on about Kyle betraying Clare with Audra. He could make a whole big scene, and Victor might say, "Pay up. Pack your bags, buddy. Forget it. You're not marrying my granddaughter." Next, of course, there's Audra, who absolutely could and would sabotage Kyle and Clare's wedding. Audra hates Kyle, and now she also hates Clare. She blames Clare for the breakup with Nate, even though, let's be real, Audra did that all on her own. Ruining Kyle and Clare's big day would give Audra a lot of pleasure. No way will she stand by while Kyle gets his happily ever after with the woman he loves now that Audra has lost everything. I also think Holden Novak could show up and intervene. Audra might even provoke Holden to interrupt. She might get in his head about Clare. If Audra Charles realizes how smitten Holden is with Clare, she might tell him he's got to stop the wedding or he'll miss his chance. Audra could tell Holden that breaking up the wedding would save Clare from Kyle because he's a cheater and is just going to hurt her again. Plus, Holden really likes Clare, so he might stop the wedding or try to. We also have to mention Clare herself might have second thoughts. Kyle's lie about the kiss might eat at her. As much as Clare loves him, she may not be able to trust Kyle again. So, Clare might interrupt her own wedding and say, "I'm sorry, I can't do this," and do the runaway bride thing. And the last thing, Cain Ashby could interrupt the wedding to ruin their big day because Victor is blackmailing him. Right now, Victor has documents that show Cain's initial money that seeded Arabesque came from Colin Atkinson's last con, where he talked the lady who owned the chateau into leaving everything in the will. So, Victor may tell Cain he's got to find some way to blow up Clare and Kyle's wedding, or he'll reveal the dirty info he's got. So, we'll see if Clare says yes when Kyle proposes. Even if Clare says yes, there are so many ways their nuptials could go off the rails. I just don't see her getting married to Kyle going off without a hitch. My top candidates for wedding disruption are Audra and Victor. In the treacherous corporate landscape of Genoa City, Phyllis Summers believed she had finally found a true partner in crime. Her alliance with Cain Ashby was forged in mutual ambition, a pact between two outsiders determined to shatter the glass ceiling held in place by the Newmans and the Abbotts. She saw him as an equal, a co-conspirator ready to play dirty to reshape the city's power structure. Phyllis was all in, strategizing a takedown of Chancellor Winters, believing they were unified in their goal. But she was merely a pawn in a game far more personal and deceitful than she could have ever imagined. The first layer of betrayal was Cain's secret pact with the ultimate puppet master, Victor Newman. While Phyllis was meticulously planning an assault on Chancellor, Cain had already accepted a more enticing offer from Victor, a hostile takeover of Jabot. The move was classic Victor, a chance to destabilize his eternal rival, Jack Abbott, while using Cain as his weapon. For Phyllis, the sting was twofold. Not only was she being manipulated into dismantling a company tied to her own family history, but she was unknowingly working for her oldest and most formidable adversary. However, just as their plan was set to detonate, a force more powerful than greed or ambition intervened, Lily Winters. In a quiet but devastating confrontation, Lily delivered an ultimatum that stopped Cain in his tracks. She made it clear that if he continued down this dark path with Victor, he would lose his children forever. The choice was stark: a seat at Victor Newman's table or a chance to be a father again. For all his ruthlessness, Cain's love for his family proved to be his one vulnerability. He chose them. Cain's sudden withdrawal from the deal sent shockwaves that crashed directly into Phyllis's world. She wasn't informed. She was abandoned. Learning through back channels that the takeover had stalled and Cain had gone silent, the full scope of his duplicity hit her. He hadn't just betrayed their partnership for a better deal with Victor. He had then betrayed Victor, leaving her exposed and holding the bag for a war that never was. But those who underestimate Phyllis Summers always pay the price. Her shock has already hardened into a cold, calculated rage. She is done being a stepping stone. Now, armed with devastating knowledge of the secret alliance between Cain and Victor, Phyllis is preparing to go on the offensive. Her revenge won't be a singular act. It will be a campaign of strategic destruction. She will ensure Lily learns that before Cain chose his family, he was perfectly willing to destroy hers by targeting Chancellor. She will leak just enough information to Jack and Diane to fortify Jabot's defenses and put them on high alert. And most dangerously, she will turn her sights on Victor Newman, using her knowledge of his clandestine dealings to sow seeds of distrust within his own empire. Cain may believe he made the noble choice, but he's about to discover there is no clean getaway. He is now caught in a crossfire between the woman he loves and the woman he scorned. Phyllis is no longer playing for power or money. She's playing for respect, and she's ready to burn down anyone who denies her it. The battle for Jabot is over, but a new, more personal war is just beginning, and Phyllis Summers is about to remind everyone in Genoa City that hell hath no fury like a redhead betrayed. The Young and the Restless spoilers for Friday, August 29th, reveal that Amanda Sinclair will return for new orders while Billy Abbott spills Cain Ashby's plan to Jack Abbott. First on Friday's Y&R episode, Nick Newman will try to lift Clare Newman's spirits by announcing her promotion. There could be some other shakeups at Chancellor as well, but nothing will truly distract Clare from her relationship issues. Clare will continue to fret over Kyle Abbott and how he broke her trust. Kyle should have come clean about kissing Audra Charles in France sooner, but what's done is done. Now all Kyle can do is move forward and try to prove Clare's the only woman he wants. That's why Kyle will buy an engagement ring and pop the question to Clare soon. In the meantime, Amanda Sinclair will make a comeback and get some new orders, so Cain may put her to work handling his blackmail dilemma. If there's a way out of this mess, Cain may count on Amanda to figure out what it is. Of course, it's also possible Phyllis Summers will seek Amanda's help once she's back in the picture. Phyllis might urge Amanda to convince Cain that he should move forward with all his takeover plots after all. As for Billy, he's not convinced that Cain is really backing down. Part of Billy is worried that Cain is merely using him as a distraction for the Newmans, and that he still plans to cause trouble. Nevertheless, Billy will open up to Jack Abbott about Cain supposedly deciding he's done with all his Genoa City domination dreams. Jack may be just as skeptical as Billy over the news and argue that they have to be prepared for anything. The Young and the Restless spoilers hint that fans may see a GC banishment, some date night drama, and a new mystery. Y&R has some exciting story developments ahead, so let's discuss some upcoming twists and turns. For starters, the contract Kyle Abbott signed is definitely going to come back into play. Jack Abbott urged Victor Newman to tear it up in the August 28th episode, but Victor naturally refused. That's because Victor knows he's sitting on the power to take $5 million from Kyle and drive him out of Genoa City if he breaks Clare Newman's heart. Victor is smart to hold on to that contract under the circumstances, and will soon be glad he did. There's surely more Clare devastation to come, so Victor may retaliate against Kyle. This could eventually lead to Kyle's GC banishment and deliver quite the financial blow, too. There'll surely be some strategy to keep Kyle on the show in the end, but things may look bleak for a bit. Victor may order Kyle to leave town like he promised, but maybe Jack could come through with a solution, or Clare could intervene despite her heartache. Cain Ashby is desperate for another chance with Lily Winters, who was visibly moved while watching his heartfelt video. Are we seeing the first signs of Lily's walls coming down? Cain hurt Lily deeply, but part of her will always love him. At some point, will Lily listen to that part of herself and at least agree to one date with Cain? Lily may not be ready for a full-blown reunion, but Cain could at least convince her to have a date with him and see where that might lead. However, there's the potential for this special night to end in disaster. Lily will remain scared of her feelings and has trust issues that aren't going away anytime soon. Cain could say or do the wrong thing and blow this if he's not careful, so any date that might be coming up could bring some drama. Tamara Braun will be making her debut as a character named Sienna Bacall this fall, but most of the details are being kept under wraps. Who exactly is this mysterious Sienna, and why will she make her way to Genoa City? Sienna will have some personal connections around town, so it'll be interesting to see who she knows and what kind of agenda she'll bring with her. Braun excels at delivering dangerous, bad girl vibes, so maybe Sienna could be trouble. Joshua Morrow reveals Nick's deep love for Phyllis. It looks like Sharon and Nick are about to hit another roadblock on The Young and the Restless, though this one is quite familiar. In a storyline preview for Soap Opera Digest, Joshua Morrow had an unwelcome update for Chic fans. I know the Sharon/Nick fans don't want to hear this, but Nick cares deeply about Phyllis. While that's not news, considering Nick has been on and off again with Phyllis for decades, Morrow's words were a preface for the drama set to unfold now that Phyllis has declared war on every elite family in Genoa City. Nick is a protector and a family man. It's his natural instinct to intercede when he sees a loved one going in the wrong direction. However, Phyllis's partnership with Cain will put him at a crossroads. Cain supposedly is abandoning his plan to go after the businesses of his competitors, but Phyllis is full steam ahead on the idea. It's a goal that will put her in direct odds with Nick. He won't sit back and let anyone mess with the Newmans, not even Phyllis, but that doesn't mean he won't be conflicted. Morrow shared, Nick knows that sometimes she is her own worst enemy. He knows that sometimes she doesn't make the best choices when it comes to her future and her life. His character's love for Phyllis is going to keep him from fully writing her off. However, Morrow has suggested that Nick may be pushed to go further than he'd like, battling his ex. Because I wonder myself, Morrow said. How far is Nick willing to go to protect the family if Phyllis proves to be a full-blown enemy? What does that look like for Nick? Beyond stating, Nick is always going to love Phyllis. They share a child together. They share a very rich history. What's already? And that's never going away. Morrow didn't elaborate on how Nick's battle with Phyllis will affect Sharon. However, the fact that the actor felt the need to directly mention what Schick fans don't want to hear could be cause for concern. If Nick is busy trying to protect his family and figure out a way to protect Phyllis too, despite her plotting against the Newmans, that doesn't leave him with much room to pursue Sharon. Not in the way fans are hoping for. We warned viewers about this possibility after their almost kiss. Getting wrapped up in the Newman family drama, especially when Phyllis is involved, is likely not going to be something Sharon wants to entertain. When the Newmans pursue a threat, it's messy, and it often blows back into their personal lives. Sharon may not be up for another whirl around the merry-go-round or competing for Nick's attention, which could mean once again a Schick reunion has been foiled.